that's enough of that. Okay, so this is the Pluto-Imum Coeli pattern that I observed here. First of all, by the way, what was I looking at? Well, you can't see these names on the side because, for privacy's sake, I'm not showing them. But there are people whose names are right here in these columns. So this blue person here, that's an individual. And what I'm doing is saying, what do these people with ones here all have as a trait that they display naturally? What do these people with sevens here have as a trait that they display mainly when they're one-to-one communicating? And what I came to is what I just typed. Okay, let's look at what the IC, the Imum Coeli, and the DSC, the Descendant, actually say in terms of normal Pluto. Okay, it says Pluto here is a reputation for power. Pluto midheaven is where you have a reputation for power. That's a pattern that I found a little over a year ago while I was writing full spectrum astrology. So the Imum Coeli would be something complementary to this because the Imum Coeli is opposite the midheaven. So Pluto IC should be something complementary to your reputation for power. If you have a reputation for power, what's the complementary experience to that? People's association with you in this area of your behavior makes them feel like they're, oh God, they're in the presence of a star or someone with a lot of power. So you have a reputation for power. The people around you feel like they're in the presence of somebody with a lot of power. And this is actually what I've been finding, which made me want to record it, because the compliments are pretty good. It wasn't just that I was seeing random things. Okay, and now let's look at the DSC, the anti-ascendant. Pluto ascendant said group favored approach. Well, that's interesting. The social pressure is trying to push you to do something. And what's the complement of a group favored approach? It looks like, well, it says it's the area of your behavior where you attract powerful desires of others or their powerful responses to you. So that's interesting. It's not as directly complementary in the way that you would think, and yet it gives you a kind of eye-opening view of what the quote opposite of approach behavior would be. When people want you to approach something, when they want you to approach something, it's like, why don't they approach it themselves? Well, it's a kind of compulsive desire which is placed on you. I feel like this and this have done their duty as complementary experiences. So what we get out of this is not the idea necessarily that astrology tells you anything, but that when you have a cluster of information using astrological data, it's not as subject to the kind of just random conclusions that change day to day. I haven't really proven anything. I haven't shown anything here, but what I have done is shown that if you give me the same group of names associated with the same clusters of numbers, I'll tend to come to the same kinds of conclusions. By the way, it's not the same group of names, and it's not the same kinds of clusters. That's another thing, because the midheaven is going to have certain angles like 1/3 of a circle. The complement, so you know, if you had two particular planets up here, which was separated by a trine, 120 degrees, that's 1/3 of a circle, then really that person would be in the 3 group because it's 1/3 of a circle. But when I change the midheaven to the Imum Coeli, I call it complement, but geometrically it's actually the supplement. It's subtracted from 180. 1/3 of a circle needs to have 1/6 of a circle added to it. So the thing is, under this cluster, which is Pluto-Imum Coeli, this person here is in the 1/3 of a circle group. But under the original cluster, this person here would have been in the 1/6 group. So it's actually not the same pattern. It's kind of a scrambled version. And the reason it's scrambled is because not all groups change. This person is in the 1/4 group in both the Imum Coeli and the midheaven group. And the reason is because what do you need to add to 1/4 in order to get 1/2? A 4. So if they were in the 4th group in the Pluto midheaven, they're also in the 4th group in the Pluto-Imum Coeli. Also, one other thing, you're not always going to be in the same group by complement. So for example, let's say that you have a kind of inexact angle. It's not exactly 120 degrees, it might be 118 degrees. If it's 118 degrees within a certain window of error, the complementary pattern would put you at 62 degrees, which might be 1/6 of a circle. 60 out of 62 is close to 60 out of 360. But if you change that just a little bit, it will move to something like 1/11 of a circle. And why is that? Well, because if instead of having 118 degrees, which is viewed as the 1/3 of a circle group, you had something like 115 degrees, which is also a lot of the times, depending on your resolution here, part of the 1/3 of a circle group. The complement to 115 degrees is actually 65 degrees, and 65 degrees is closer to a biondecile than it is to a sextile. It's closer to an 11 than a 6. So some people in the original 3rd group may end up in the 6th group in the complement, or they may end up in the 11th group in the complement. And what that means is that no, it's not the case that when I simply type in the opposite, the point which is opposite one of these up here, I just get flipped versions of the exact same groups. I actually don't. I get flipped-ish versions, but scrambled versions as well, and some of them don't even change. And yet you can still, given the rearrangement of all of these, come up with patterns which are, I think, pretty reliably complementary to the original one that you